It's great to win at things, and it's even better to share when you've won at something. We're going to pass arguments from the game fragment to the game 1 fragment that contains the number of questions answered and the number of total questions, so we could eventually hashtag BragShare Android Trivia with stats using other apps. In this video, we're going to start this process by passing arguments from the game fragment to the game 1 fragment. Fragments contain arguments in the form of an Android bundle, which is a key value store. A key value store, also known as a dictionary or associative array, is a data structure where you use a unique key, such as a string, to fetch an associated value. There are limited types that can be stored as values in a bundle. Primitive types, such as char, int, and float, along with various types of arrays, char sequence, and a few data classes such as ArrayList. Let's say you have fragment A and fragment B. To pass parameters from A to B, you create an instance of the argument bundle class in fragment A. Then set your argument data in the bundle by pushing in associated keystring and value pairs. Finally, you set that data into the arguments property in the fragment B instance when you create it. Fetching the arguments then looks like this within the new fragment's onCreateView method. This works, but is not ideal. There are a few ways in which this can generate bugs. Types. It's up to the developer to make sure that the types of arguments match. For example, getting an integer from a string within the bundle returns the default value of 0. Null returns. If you try to get an argument as a string that you haven't set in the bundle, it will return null. More importantly, there's no way to guarantee that what you pass into fragment A is what the recipient asks for on the other end. Fortunately, navigation includes a feature called safeargs that can help.
safeargs is a Gradle plugin that generates code to help guarantee that the arguments on both sides match up, while also simplifying argument passing. Because it's a Gradle plugin, using it is a two-step process in terms of what to add to your Gradle files. First, we need to add the navigation safeargs Gradle plugin dependency into the project Gradle file. This Gradle file is the first of the two Gradle files within the Android view within Android Studio. It's labeled with project, and fund, Kotlin, Android Trivia. The app Gradle file is the other non-project Gradle file. At the top of your app Gradle file, after all of the other plugins, you can add the apply plugin statement with the Android X navigation safeargs plugin, and now you can start using safe arguments. We'll do a clean build. And the Safe Arguments plugin generates nav directions classes to represent navigation from all our actions. Let's start by replacing the IDs of our actions with the generated nav directions classes within our game fragment. This sets up passing arguments nicely. You can add arguments right in the navigation editor. We're going to pass two integer arguments to our game 1 fragment from our game fragment. NumQuestions, the total number of questions answered, and NumCorrect, the questions answered correctly. Now that we've added arguments without defaults, the game fragment will no longer compile, because the game fragment directions that navigates to the game 1 fragment now requires the NumQuestions and question index parameters in its constructor, thanks to safeargs. We'll have to add the number of questions and the number of questions answered correctly to the nav directions. Behind the scenes, the nav directions action class will create the correct argument bundle for us. Within the game 1 fragment, we use the generated game 1 fragment args class to get the arguments from the argument bundle. We can then reference these arguments by their names. We'll add a toast so we can see that the arguments got passed successfully. Success. But since we're using safe arguments, we'll use nav directions everywhere. Let's replace navigation to an action ID in Game Over fragment. Game 1 fragment. And title fragment, where we have to switch to an anonymous function to use nav directions. Now you get to try it.